Hey, kids cook real food. Katie Kimball here for the Healthy Parenting Connector, where, as always, we strive to connect you parents who so desperately want to raise healthy, independent adults with the experts who have the information you need. Today, I am honored to be here with Michele Borba, and she is a woman on a mission. She has been entrenched in education and in children's growth and development for many, many years. She says she's never been more concerned than she is now about the state of what's happening to our children. And I tell you, I am right there with you, Michele. So we're going to jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of your new book, Thrivers. Thank you so very much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. I've been so looking forward to speaking with you.
Well, we need the information that you have. So let me officially introduce the audience, a little bit about the book, which I got to tell you, oh my goodness, just like reading the cover of the book, the subtitle, and the little blurb, I thought, if the book is written anywhere near as well as this one line, like I'm in. My whole heart just sort of bloomed like our kids need this. So incredibly well done. All right, I'm getting off on a tangent. Official introduction, Katie, settle down here. Michele Borba is an educational psychologist, former teacher like me. She's a mom recognized for offering research-driven advice, culled from a career working with over 1 million parents, educators, and children. Y'all, this is the experience we need. She's a frequent Today Show contributor and a recipient of the National Educator Award. She is a prolific author, 25 books, including Unselfie, very intriguing as well. And her latest, check this out, the title, right? Thrivers, the surprising reason why some kids struggle and others shine. She's also appeared on Dr. Phil, The View, CNN, The Doctors, and me, the Healthy Parenting Connector. I'm right up there with all of them, whatever. Michele is famous and amazing. Now, I swear, you guys, I am already planning to ask her back because she's got such a wealth of knowledge. But today, calm down, Katie. We are focusing on the most important quality that our kids need today, and it's resilience. Her new book, Thrivers, is about 7 teachable skills. My favorite word ever, teachable skills that set skills that set happy, healthy, and high-performing kids apart, right? We want our kids to be set apart. We want them to be on the high end of the statistics, right? I really think those are listed in an intentional order. Happy, healthy, high-performing. We're going to unpack all of that today. So glad to have you here, Michele. Shall we jump right in?
Oh, let's please. We've got time and we can do it.
All right. Now, you've worked with kids for a really long time, and I've heard you say a number of times that you have never been more worried than you are about this current generation and this current situation. Why is that, and what led you to write this book?
Well, what began was following statistics, and that's what I do as an educational psychologist. And what seemed to be coming up over and over and over was a rise in kids' stress prior to the pandemic. We were looking at just last March, a year ago, 1 in 5 kids would be diagnosed with some kind of a mental health disorder, and then came a pandemic. And the key that I think we need to keep in mind as parents is that a crisis only amplifies pre-existing problems.
Right.
Then part 2 came that was absolutely fascinating. When I kept looking at, the best and the best researchers in the world saying, watch out, there's red flags, I started to interview teens. And I interviewed 100 of them from coast to coast, one-on-one for an hour each.
Wow.
And then when I really realized we had a problem, because they were the most wonderful kids, so loved, so educated, but they all said they felt like they didn't have the human skills to be able to thrive.
Whoa.
And one of them told me the worst thing. I said, oh my gosh. He said, I think we're being raised more like products than humans. And somebody has got to turn the tide, because we really are tanking and we're more worried about our younger brothers and sisters. So tell the teachers and parents out there to start adding skill sets that we can thrive. That's when I wrote the book.
That a teenager was able to articulate that just pierces right to my heart.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you really want to know a problem and how to solve it, ask a teen. When they know that they have your trust, they open up. And throughout the book, what I've done is put their quotes, because they're just mind-boggling, and they all reinforce the research. So then it was, okay, Michele, so if they're telling us that they need help and all the research is saying it, what I did in Thrivers is put everything that was science backed of what research on the science of resilience says will help us. And the best news is you can weave it in. It's not a program, it's not an app, and you don't need a PhD. It's simple little things we weave into our daily lives with our kids. And that's how we make a difference in their lives and help them thrive.
We need that encouragement. It's not a program. It's not one more Zoom call. Oh my goodness, right? And what I heard you say is that you interviewed well-educated, well-loved children. So we know what thriving does not necessarily need. I mean, I'm sure it needs that too, but it's not about just loving our kids more. It's not about pushing them hard in academics. You use this term thrivers to describe kids who have the skills and abilities to do well in the real world. And I mean, that's what drew me to you. I am all about the life skills, all about looking ahead, raising healthy, independent adults. So how do you define a thriver? What do these kids need?
Oh, what I discovered in a thriver is it's really a kid who's got a I can do it kind of an attitude. He's going to get through it, nothing's stopping him. And he is a kid who can champion life. That also means he's got the skill set in order to do that. And it's not just the GPA. They're usually, smarter kids. But in reality, what we now know, according to the science, is that if we teach the skill set of a thriver, not only will it help him out in life handle adversity, but it also helps him be a peak performer in the classroom. It's not either or, it's both. And the third thing is it actually raises a happier kid. And I'm not just saying that. I'm looking at the back of the book has 400 reference notes of the best scientists in the world that says we can do this. The key is sometimes we make it too hard and we don't zero in on what really makes a difference. So step number one is you just turn to the introduction and there's a little questionnaire about your child. Figure out where their skills are, where their strengths are. Don't look at their weaknesses. What helps them be the confident kid they are. And all of research says the first step to a thriver is they're a confident kid who knows their strengths and we acknowledge them. So there you go. Start with the skill set. The second thing is you can just take an index card and for the next week, watch your kid, each one of them, because I've got 3 kids and they're different as night and day, but without them knowing you're watching, look at what gives them joy. Look at what makes them hang in there a little longer. What's the thing that they're doing that they tell you, Mom, can I just wait a little longer to go to dinner? I have to finish this. It's not everything they do, but you'll begin to see what they're driven to and what does help them thrive. And there's your first step, because that's what's going to help them become the first skill of a thriver, a confident kid.
Ooh. And now, as soon as you said, Mom, I don't want to come to dinner, I immediately thought, well, that does happen with the screens and, the video games and stuff. Do we acknowledge that is okay, or are we judging
what
here,
are
like good flow, bad flow?
No. Always safety first and always health first. Those are our parameters of a parent. That's what we do. But what I begin to look at is that, in fact, the science of resilience says one thing that piques kids who are thrivers apart is they have hobbies, they have interests, and they have go-tos. So if your kid is in the middle of knitting, for heaven's sakes, or wants to knit, get grandma involved. He's into woodwork, he's into art, he's into music. I got to finish the cello, Mom. He may be on a computer, but what's he doing on the computer? Not facing a screen, but maybe he's tinkering, trying to figure something out. We've got some amazing kids if we just follow their path. Do you know that the most staggering thing I discovered is that the average 13-year-old gives up their strength that gives them purpose, because they don't have enough time to practice it.
Oh,
13. So there would have been the kid who can really handle that thriving. Step number 2 is look at your kid's schedule. Is there one little thing you can clear up so he has a little more time to go towards the joy and the passion of his life? Kids who are thrivers, very often they love to read. I was fascinated in how many of them love to pray. It isn't one thing. It's all the common sense stuff from, Mayberry, RFD that we've kind of left in the woodwork and thinking if we just raise their GPAs up, it was going to be enough. Not in today's uncertain world. They need more.
Sure. In raising those GPAs, we left too much else in the dust. Threw the baby out.
We also discovered those GPAs were great at getting them into college. But the number one most highly correlated fact of an American kid, they are most likely of all kids in the world to drop out when they get to college. Ooh. That means they're not world ready. They're most likely to drop out. This is prior to the pandemic. freshman year, end of first semester. And when we look at the why, it's because they can't handle the life and the stress because we've been a little bit too much helpers in getting through it.
Yes, done a lot for them. We have an also incredible interview with Julie Lythcott-Hames, author of
Oh,
How to
love
Raise an
her.
Adult.
Yeah.
We will link to that in the show notes. But Michele, you identify, I believe it's 7 character strengths that set these thrivers apart. Where did those come from?
Oh, thank you for the question. I knew that we needed them, but boy, let's make sure that they only address science. So the first thing,
Okay.
I looked at longitudinal studies, and there's phenomenal ones that have been studying the same groups of kids for 40 years who had adversity in their childhood, but overcame. And then the question is why? I mean, we're talking homelessness, severe poverty, abuse. 1/3 of them bounce back. The second thing is once I started looking at those studies of, so what are the common traits? I said, okay, we don't want just the resilient kid, though that's nice. In addition to those 7 traits, they had to be recognized by the World Economic Summit as traits that will help our kids be more employed in the 21st century. And they also had to be ones that would reduce their mental health needs. So rise up the healthier, happier kid and be correlated to a peak performer. Because I think too often we want the resilient kid, but that means we don't have enough time to do this one. Or we want the kid with character, but we don't have enough time to help them with the GPA. It's not either or, it's both. And that's how the 7 traits came.
Can you list those for us so we're all on the same page?
Number 1 we talked about is self-confidence. Number 2 is empathy. That's the key that helps you have social competence, which is the key trait of a mentally healthier kid. Third is self-control. That means being able to regulate that stress so that you can endure. Fourth is a sense of integrity, because we want a kid who can make split-second decisions when push comes to shove. He doesn't have the stress, he can get through it. And those kids actually have lower mental health problems. Then comes what we know is perseverance. The fascinating one that I loved was curiosity. They have an openness. That doesn't mean they're going to be Albert Einstein, but they have an openness to ideas and people that helps them thrive. And the last one I think every kid right now needs, as well as parents, is optimism and hope. So you put those together. What I discovered is they raise a kid who has strong heart, strong mind, and strong will. And that's the win-win scenario.
So very powerful. None of those are specifically taught in school. Definitely none tied to a GPA. But if you think about, if I am an HR or I'm a CEO and I'm hiring someone, what do I want? And I will tell you, as a CEO, I hire for mission-minded women first. Not always women, but they tend to be moms.
For you.
I do. I hire mission-minded and then I teach the skills.
Well,
so I'm right there with you.
Here's the interesting thing. Why empathy is number 2? Harvard Business Review named it as the top employability factor right now.
Wow.
Being able to get along with others. What our kids are doing when they go off to college is they're no longer wanting a roommate because they don't have the social skills to get along. That was prior to the pandemic. So you're going to see in this book packed research that says why it matters. But the other thing it's going to give you is, so how do we do it? So what do I do tonight or tomorrow that isn't going to cost me a dime, but I can dig in and help my kid be more of a shiner and not of a struggler?
Yes. Well, absolutely. And, you identify something you call the multiplier effect, which, as someone who loves multitasking and being efficient, I love that. You got to explain that to us.
Well, there was my aha moment when I was writing it. I kept going the same thing. Which of these traits is most important? And I began to realize something, because the other thing is parents kept asking me, which one should I start with? You start with your child's strength. That's why you go to the introduction and you identify what he's good at. And then you say, okay, what does he need right now? Because everything is also filtered in here from sandbox to prom. So it's never too late. You can do it at any age.
Aww.
The fascinating thing is, I discovered is that you thrive more when you have not one trait, but multiple traits. It doesn't mean you have to have all 7. But 2 is better than 1. 3 is better than 1. And here's the other thing is, if you have one like self-confidence and then you learn perseverance, self-confidence multiplies. So it becomes the multiplier effect because now the kid not only has self-confidence, but he has the skill to persevere. So that's going to really boost his self-confidence. You've got self-control plus perseverance plus self-confidence. You got an unstoppable kid. You've got self-control plus empathy plus integrity. You got a social change maker that's out to change the world and won't give up. So that's what we're looking at. Find it out and don't think you have to do this month. You've got a womb to tomb scenario. It's never too late to start. The sooner you begin, the better. But you just keep stretching your child like a rubber band. Keep stretching without snapping. And that's what you want because then your kid is going to be able to thrive without you someday.
Such an important lesson for us and such an important reminder. I love the multiplier effect because it's every minute you put in, every effort, every bit of your heart that you put into any of these traits is going to multiply the rest, right? It's totally a win-win. We get out, the more we put in, the more multiplied we get out even in other areas, which is so cool. Now, what about parents out there, Michele, who are a little skeptical? Like, I don't know. What about my kid? Can all kids really develop all these traits or most or enough of these traits to matter?
Enough of them. They can all develop enough of them. And that goes for us too. When we look at the 7, we got to admit we're not so good at all of them. I can tell you which ones I'm not so great at. But you see, I started also as a special education teacher. I started with kids who were really, really struggling. And I began to always ask, why do some of them seem like they're keep on going and they're able to endure? And what I discovered is that all children, in order to thrive, really need 2 things. This is what the science says. They need a protective buffers. They need some of the skills we're talking about here. So when they do get into adversity, by the way, 40% of kids will. They're going to encounter sometime in their lifetime a real challenge that they're either going to be able to get through or they're going to tank. We want to get them through it. So that's, we can't bubble wrap them. We may not be there. But the second thing is they've got the skills already there, like how to handle the stress or how to tell myself it's going to be okay, how to have the optimism. And the next thing they have that they've already got, any listener, is a you in their life. They have to have a protective champion, the adult who refuses to give on the child. In fact, Emmy Werner's research on resilience said that was the strongest commonality. If you've got a child who's struggling, then you've got to keep being the repeated one. I'm here for you. I'm not giving up on you. But let's also learn a couple of little skills that may help you so that you can handle this and get through it and say, I got this.
So give them the raw material, give them the ingredients, and then tell them you believe in them and stay by them. It couldn't be more simple and yet important, weighty, right? This is not a, like you said, this is not a one day task. Michele, what's one question you say would help parents raise more confident kids? How does that work?
Ask yourself the question, am I raising a kid based on who they are or what I want them to be? Self-confident kids are raised on who the child is, and you follow the child's lead and the child's path. Figure out what drives them. That's what most of the teens tell me. They're always raising me on what they want me to do or the place they want me to go, but I got to find what I'm good at. So that would help you figure that one out. Follow the child's lead.
And I just did an interview yesterday. I don't know when these will be published, but parenting expert Sue DeCaro kept emphasizing you go with the essence of your child and not trying to change them. Just like you're saying, just light that fire under them to spark their own strengths.
Because that gives your child a sense of purpose. They know who they are. They can accept their strengths. They're more likely, by the way, to then accept their weaknesses. And kids who are mentally healthier have a sense of not only who I am, but okay, then this is what's going to lead me. This is where I'm going to go. It doesn't mean you're going to be the best cello player in the whole wide world, but because that's what I love. But I can always backlog on that cello when doom and gloom is heading me out. That's why your first step is go to the introduction and take the little survey. In fact, I'll give you a link that you can put that survey right on your website so each parent can start with there.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, we spend a lot of time working on parenting. We spend a lot more time in the trenches and the nitty gritty of who's getting fed and who needs clean clothes. It's so important to take a step back
Yeah.
really investigate each of our kids and take a moment. Here at Kids Cook Real Food, Michelle, we talk a lot about building confidence in the kitchen, that meaningful work, and how that spills out
Yep.
into other areas of life, right? Because when kids know they can perform authentic skills that serve their family, they believe in themselves. They get a heck of a self-esteem boost. So I'm so curious if any of the families that you interviewed or the studies you dug into address life skills in particular as part of thriving.
Oh, absolutely. The majority of them did, and the kids would tell me that they did. And by the way, the fascinating thing is that kitchen becomes one of the best avenues for getting to know who your child is. If you really want to talk to your child and get into deep kinds of conversations, particularly teens, that one on one, let's talk face to face doesn't work. But how much easier to let's go stir the cookie batter and see how, and as you're stirring the cookie batter together or whatever you're doing together in that kitchen,
Cutting carrot sticks
cutting
around
carrot
here.
sticks. Okay, there you go. You're cutting the carrot sticks and going with the celery. What happens along the way is that you can also have those more wonderful informal conversations that get into deeper conversations. Those family meals are absolutely critical too. Throughout the book, there's dozens of ideas of what to do in the family meal. One of the simplest ones during the family meal is to start with good news reports. If you want an optimistic kid, go to the back page of the newspaper, cut out the fabulous stuff of what real kids are doing. They're about this big in the news. Blow them up, put them on an index card, have your kids look for them, because the more you look at the good stuff as opposed to the bad stuff, your heart begins to open. You begin to be more inspired. The optimism sets in, the hope comes alive, your mental health things go down, and kids are now inspired to do something similar. So there's a way to start the family dinner. Did you hear about Johnny in Minnesota?
Excellent. That literally trains our brains to
Yeah,
look for the positive in the following day.
yeah.
So good. And giving gratitude for positive in your own life too. A very important piece of dinner. Now, today's parents, though, man, I mean, we're in the pandemic now. Before the pandemic, we said we're busier and more stressed than ever.
Yes, we are.
Now we're this like weird mess of we're kind of less busy. Many schedules are more clear, but we're kind of more busy because all our routines are gone, right?
Yep.
We're just kind of a mess. Now, how is it possible for parents in these moments to find time to implement building these strengths for our kids?
Great question. Number one, as uncertainty builds, your anxiety goes up because the routine isn't there. So
Sure.
if you want a healthier, happier family, the first thing is get back to any kind of a ritual. I don't care what it is. We're going to read at 3 o'clock to afternoon every day. We're going to Zoom with grandma at 5 o'clock. We're going to cut carrot sticks at 6 o'clock. Whatever it is, get back to the ritual and the routine. Number two is if the most highly correlated factor of kids who are resilient have some kind of a protective buffer skill, then go immediately to self-regulation. And there's 50,000, believe it or not. I mean, dozens of ways you can do it. But teach your kid one skill as a family. Not Johnny needs it, so let's work on 1-2 breathing with Johnny. You know, what we have discovered is that Navy SEALs taught me this. The fastest way to keep cognitive capacities up and stress down is identify your stress sign the moment it starts. So what you say, I noticed your stress signs. Maybe it's this for Johnny and this for Sally. And then stop, take a slow, deep breath, write it up, hold it. Now slowly let it out. Here's the thing that Navy SEALs say, and UC Berkeley says, if your exhale is twice as long as your inhale, you get the fastest relaxation process. That's 30 seconds. Do it every day. You're going to have a habit for a lifetime.
So good. As a stress mastery educator, that is exactly what I teach. We teach a 2x
Yeah.
breath, double the exhale. Um, so yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I like that you emphasize the whole family too. Let's not single out one kid because we all need to be improving all the time, adults, children alike. Now, what about school? Can the traditional school model be like on the same team as parents trying to raise thrivers? And if so, what might need to be reimagined? If not, what are the implications for parents, particularly as people are juggling virtual school or for our homeschoolers out there?
Well, I think what's happening right now, because I spend most of my time on Zoom calls with, in fact, yesterday was the Spokane, it was 2,000 teachers. They're all concerned on what we can do. And most every educator is actually 10 years down behind, be in front of us, realizing our kids need more than the GPA. That's why they're working in social emotional learning into the classrooms. And many of them are adopting thrivers. So I've got an educator discussion guide just for teachers on how do you weave this in so that ideally, here's what we want to do. Teachers and parents on the same plate together, reinforcing the same skills. That's how you maximize children's effectiveness. And that's what we need to do, both on board. So that's what teachers are doing. They're taking the skills and they're weaving it in, and they're telling parents, okay, now you do this at home, I'll do this in the classroom, or I'll do it on the Zoom call. That's a win-win.
Absolutely. And, teachers are overwhelmed too. I have to admit, I am a former teacher. I've been
Yeah.
out of it for 15 years and I would never go back. Not
Yeah.
because I don't love children and not because my heart of a teacher is still strong, but I see how much pressure is put on teachers right now, again, even before the pandemic, but especially now. And I think I couldn't do that. I don't think I could survive. But what you're saying, you're saying this is not another thing on your plate, right? This is
Yes.
something you weave into what you're already doing, and it has the benefit of taking some things off your plate. This should take some discipline issues off of teachers' plates. This
Well,
should add focus in the classroom and
what
make everyone
that,
productive.
oh my gosh, my head's going, yes, yes, yes. What we've discovered is when you have these, that's the buy-in for a teacher.
Yes.
When you have these skills in a student, not only do you have a better behaved kid who's more focused and more engaged, he's also a more curious, deeper thinker who's going to be able to get along better, not only in school, but also in life. And I think what we also need to know as parents is that teachers are struggling. Thank you for bringing that up. One of the coolest things we can do as a parent is every once in a while, send a link to the teacher saying, what do you need? How can I help you? Because those teachers are really concerned about your child's well-being right now, and rightly so. This is a troubling time. We're seeing a spike in mental health needs of our children. When this pandemic hit, that the CDC says we have never seen more teens right now going to the emergency room because of depression and suicidology. So teaching if there's a reset button during all of this on a corona, our kids need something more. COVID, let's do it.
Well, the internet seems to be teaching me lessons about resilience here. You'll notice if you're watching the video that I suddenly magically have headphones on. We had to edit out quite a bit of technical difficulty, which honestly is a bit perfect here. We're going through this pandemic. The news is often very scary. The world feels uncertain. Michele, what can parents do when things are inevitably going wrong in the small and in the big, to really still instill hope in our kids? And what impact has this pandemic had on kids' opportunity to thrive?
Well, here's what we do know, Katie. What you just did is the perfect scenario to do with your child. And that is when you see a little bump in the road, you model it on how you're getting through it. And one of the coolest things you can also do is say out loud what's in your head. I got this. Oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. I'm going to keep going. If you model that kind of self-talk and you keep doing it, after a while, what happens? Your voice becomes your child's inner voice. And now he has the perfect little mantra that he can say. He'll begin to say, oh my gosh, I got a bump in the road. I got this. I can get through it. What we do know is that thrivers are able to negate the pessimism, so it keeps their hope alive. Little things you can do. That's what science says. That's Aaron Beck's research, and you just did it.
Well, I did it, yes, here in front of, someone else. But I do think we parents need to be reminded of this so very many times. We know without a shadow of a doubt that our words come out of our children's mouth. Yeah. More often than not, it's those embarrassing situations when we wish those weren't our words, right? So we definitely need that reminder of being the example, right? I fail so often in the face of adversity. And I do think it's a good example too, to look back and say, man, kids, mom did not do well. I made some bad choices. I lost my temper, and I'm committed next time to try again. And I might fail, but I'm going to try again, right? So there's always hope,
Well,
there's always an opportunity to model for our kids, right?
you also did the other thing. One of the strategies in Thrivers under Perseverance, it says, this is what I blew, but next time I'll. So the kid already knows that you blew it. You might as well admit it.
You
Here's
do, yeah.
what I did, but next time I'll. And after a while, if you keep doing it, you can keep going. You just go up to your child and go, so what happened? And he'll turn around and go, but next time I'll. So it's like these little sets that we can do. Choose one or two, make them become your family rituals. And what you're actually doing is just helping your child develop a new mindset that's a thriver mindset based on science.
Which a lot of us adults probably could have improvements in our thriving mindset. And we really do need to, particularly with this pandemic, but beyond, you know, I want those traits in myself. I want those traits in my kids, and I want those traits in your kids out there. So here at the end, Michele, I always like to leave parents with a really practical step, like one thing they can do today when the earbuds come out or when they walk away from their computer after listening to this amazing, inspiring, encouraging interview. We want to see them get a quick win. What's like the one first step they should take?
Real simple. Just walk on over, open up your phone, open up the notepads and go, this is the one thing I'm going to do. Of everything I heard, this is what's going to work for me. Write it down. Ideally, pass it on to a girlfriend, because moms who share their goal with a friend, particularly another woman, University of Santa Cruz says, are more likely to actually implement it, because your girlfriend's going to call up and say, did you do it? How you do it? Simple little things are going to make the difference. You got to figure out what's going to work for you, for your family, not make it so hard, but keep doing it a minimum of 21 days, just like a minute a day. And what'll happen is you'll create one new habit, and then you can add on the next and the next and the next. That's how we help our kids thrive.
I love it. Well, I am committing myself as Katie Kimball, a mom, to looking at each of my kids, to starting that little, it won't be an index card. It'll be a torn scrap of paper, because that's just how I roll. But just writing those things down and having a conversation with my husband about reminding one another about the amazing gifts that our kids have, right? Because it's too easy to see the negative, you know?
Well, the other thing you've just done is part two. Pass it on to somebody else. We are so lonely trying to do all this ourselves as moms. Pass it on to your partner. Pass it on to your grandmother. Pass it on to mom, great Aunt Sally, the teacher, anybody. If you can get one other person to reinforce the same thing that you're working on, it's going to optimize your chances of success with your child.
Excellent. And invest in our kids' whole generation, right? I really do want to we got to lift everybody up, because our kids will become like the 5 people they spend the most time with. So it's in our best interest to create an entire generation of thrivers.
And that's what we're going to do. That's how we raise a generation of kids who are going to have hope for the world. And it's going to be an uncertain world, but they got this if we let them know they do now.
So many gems, so much encouragement. Thank you so very, very much, Michele Borba. Everyone needs this book. You need Thrivers. It's coming out in spring 2020. It'll already be out by the time this publishes.
Just got it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's awesome. This is a book, I'm telling you, I turn down a lot of books. I say, I don't want any more things in my house. But as soon as I started reading the description of Thrivers, I thought, I am ordering this. Like, I want this. I want it now. So get it from your library. Get it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstore.org. Find Thrivers. Connect with Michele. We'll make sure that you have links to all of those anywhere in the show notes. But again, Michele, thank you so very much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was a joy.
We are on the same mission here at the Healthy Parenting Connector to raise thriving, healthy, independent adults. And I know you want that too, parents. I know you want that for your kids. I know you want to see more connection, confidence, creativity blossoming in your family. And that's what we're here for. I will see you again next week with another expert who has information that will help you out. I'm Katie Kimball for the Healthy Parenting Connector.